Hello and welcome to Raising the Barr, the go-to podcast for business owners and entrepreneurs looking to elevate their marketing game. Today, we've got a fantastic guest for you. He's left a massive mark on the Dubai hospitality industry, bringing some unbelievable brands to the region. He's the founder of Claw BBQ and Okku, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, Ramzy Abdul-Majeed.
Thank you for having me.
Ramzy, thank you very much for joining. As I was just telling you before, I'm a massive fan of Claw BBQ, so very excited to have you on today.
Thank you.
But you weren't always in hospitality, were you?
Not at all.
So let's go back to the beginning. A very successful career in finance, private equity, not necessarily the most natural transition. Fill us in on how you moved from that to hospitality.
Not at all. I joke with people. I tell them I got sunstroke and moved into hospitality because of that. No, I mean, the reality was I came to Dubai back in 2004. I've been here 20 years. The background was finance, as you said. Started off at NBD, heading up strategy and working with investment banking there. Was involved in putting the merger together. It became ENBD, put the structure, decided it was time to move out of the corporate world and to do my own things. And so from then just entered into what Dubai is incredibly set up for, which is encouraging people just to go for it. And whatever you want to do is doable. It's achievable. Put your mind to it and you can do it. And the facilities are all here to do that. So there are challenges in business everywhere, but that was the idea. Go out and do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I mean, like you say, Dubai is a land of opportunity now. In 2004, when you first came over, what was the hospitality, food and beverage scene like back then, just for people who are here now? How much has it developed?
Massively. I mean, there was very little in reality. You had Gordon Ramsay Table 9 at the Creek in the Hilton. Ver, you had Teatro on Sheikh Zayed, which 99% of people that go out in today's Dubai market don't know where that hotel is, don't know that restaurant. But that was an institution. You couldn't get a table for love or money weeks and weeks in advance. There was very little. And then the sort of scene developed a few years later. It sort of took a turn. It was mostly hotel venues. And there was quite a few mid-range type concepts that people know in town. Great brands, Fibber McGee's, Rock Bottoms, etc. Those have existed for a very long time and have always had an incredible following. And they provide a great product. It's not for everyone, but it's for their target market, and they're great. So from that developed, the sort of Dubai market developed, and you could see an opportunity. So there were obviously the big name, casual brands that were here already from around the world. Many more were still looking to come. The opportunity was there. Some of the big groups had those, still the same big groups today that have just added to their portfolios. So we were looking at, what could be done here. Dubai was such an incredible city, clearly growing like crazy. And we saw the opportunity to do something that was done in other cities around the world. Yeah. So the first sort of big restaurant I'd say that changed that here was essentially when Buddha Bar opened at Grosvenor House.
Okay.
And that was really the first big, foreign brand that came in and did unbelievably well, and still does well today. I mean, for me, it's the most beautiful one in the world. Yeah, and then when they did the refurb upstairs, that was even more stunning. They spent a lot of money, but it's great what it offers. Yeah. So that was done, and then we were planning, essentially, I joke about sunstroke, but the reason I got into F&B, and I'm involved in telecom, I'm involved in real estate and a few other things, but, as quite a few people in Dubai are, in multiple businesses. But the idea was, why is it that this part of the world, and as we go further east, why is it that we tend to look at the West and we think the West knows better than we do here? When in reality, the majority of people here have probably traveled, are more exposed than most people elsewhere. And that was my view back in 2005. Yeah. So the idea was, let's create Dubai homemade. And we create brands here, and then we'll go international from here. And that was the whole goal. Create rather than franchise. Why build somebody else's brand when you can create one, be a sort of home darling of the local market, be supported that way, and then go from here and grow. That was really the sole driver of why I got into hospitality. And for me, it was, I'm proud to be here. I want to do more. I want to showcase this place. I want this to be the hub. I want this to be the flagship. And then from here, we can proudly say, look what we started in Dubai, and this is where it's gone around the world.
Yeah, and I think that's been a great evolution in Dubai over the last few years. 4 or 5 years, you do see more and more homegrown brands coming out of Dubai. So you originally had the brainwave or the sunstroke, whatever we want to call it, to enter into the hospitality industry, which I can testify from past experience is relentless and ruthless. From having that idea, how long did it take you to develop the concept? What was that kind of timeline from light bulb moment to execution and launch?
Well, light bulb, let's say, was 2005.
Yep.
Execution and launch was tricky. So I think one of the things, to bear in mind, at that time, Dubai was flying as it is now. But, traffic was crazy, as it is back again now. And it's amazing how this just, phenomenon continues. But what we saw was trying to do something, lots of buildings were going up, hotels and towers. And, the Dubai skyline looked very different to what it looks today. And essentially, anything you wanted to do for a small restaurant was almost impossible to get done. So you're talking to an MEP company for, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, the things that, the air conditioning and the lights and the et cetera for people that don't know what that is. And they don't want to talk to you because they're talking to you with $1 million or $1.5 million dirham contract, yet they're doing a 10, 20, 30 million contract for a building.
Yeah.
And so it was very difficult to get anyone to really pay attention to a restaurant because this was the early days of restaurants.
Yeah.
So of independence especially. Hotels are a slightly different case. You're building a big building, the contractor is building the building, the restaurants are being built, everything is being done. And that's why traditionally hotels had all the restaurants that were here. Also linked to the fact that it was, the licensing aspect. If you wanted a licensed product with the, things that you want to drink that we don't talk about publicly for some people, then you had to be in those buildings. Those laws have become more flexible. I think that's the word over time. More and more over the last 15 years, what we've seen is essentially that as those laws have become more flexible, as more and more independents have come to the market, then you've got some great brands that are being created, and the laws have been, the government's watching and adjusting to some degree to support those, because these are all independents, as opposed to being part of a massive group and a massive hotel chain. So it took us from 2005, we signed the lease. The first one was Okku. Mm-hmm. Ironically, first restaurant I've ever done, became the most award-winning, multi-award-winning brand that's been created here in Dubai, even till today, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think we won over 70 awards in the 10 years we were open in the original location.
A lot of award ceremonies to go to.
That's a lot, yep. And, I'm proud to say all of those were in merit. We literally won everything that could be won under the sun. Very proud of the team and what was achieved. Until today, you see so many of the ex-Okku people that have gone on to become very senior in hospitality, across Dubai, and other new brands or other brands they've been involved in creating or that they're running in very senior positions. So it's quite fulfilling and heartwarming to see that. We have one young lady that came from South Africa. We did done a recruitment trip. She came to our reception. Very interestingly, she stayed with us a couple of years and then said, look, I really want to move on. Can you help me? I want to move into, the world of spa and wellness. We said, sure. How can we help? Assisted to get her a job somewhere else. And fast forward 15 years, she's the general manager of, I won't say the name, but of a group that has 600 employees, and we'll probably be doing a public offering next year.
Amazing. This
year or next year. Yeah. So it's amazing when I see and hear those stories.
Yeah.
Until today, she, I saw her recently. She said, thank you to Okku and you that I was able to start a new life. Met her husband here, has a great family, has built a great career. So it's very heartwarming when we see things like that. But it took from signing in 2007, the lease, then with delays with some of the things that I explained to you, we didn't end up opening until February 2009.
2009, so it was that 5-year journey there.
Yeah, so what happened with that is a lot of people, because people will always ask the question about Zuma and Nobu.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for people who are listening that don't necessarily understand it. You were set to launch earlier. You were going to be the first top quality Pan-Asian restaurant, all of the hype around it, and you were set to launch first. And then with the delays, Nobu and Zuma came to the market first. Is that correct?
So we were due to open in February 18.
Yeah.
And what happened with some of the delays I described to you, and we'd recruited the staff. And then with a few delays, we thought, right, we'll open in May. And the staff were on board. And then some other delays held us back. And Zuma and Nobu both ended up opening in the same time in September 18. Yeah. Bearing in mind, Buddha Bar had opened a year before. Mm-hmm. So when they opened, obviously, to much fanfare, both did extremely well and continues to do extremely well. And we ended up managing to open 5 months later. So the most difficult part, and it was in a difficult time in Dubai with the crash at the time.
Economic crash,
so we had to adjust in terms of how we were opening. And we ran at a loss for the first 10 months. Now, that's quite difficult to run any business at a loss before it really started to take off. But the interesting part was that people that don't understand the sector thought, oh my God, this is easy. You just saw Nobu and Zuma and you just copied and opened in 5 months. That's just not possible. You can't suddenly decide I want to do it, find a location, negotiate it, sign it, decide what brand you're going to do the design and everything, and open. The reality for a high-end brand, it's about a 9 to 12-month process. Yeah. So assuming you have the brand and you know what you're going to do, it's going to take you best part of a month to 6 weeks to actually negotiate and finalize an agreement. That's having found a venue. Yeah. So assuming you've got the brand and assuming you've got a location, that's the negotiation. You're then going to take the best part of somewhere between 8 to 12 weeks to do the drawings. And there are multiple phases of going through a design and a layout and the detailed drawings and the cross sections and the elevations. And you get hundreds and hundreds of pages of this stuff because you have to do all of that to, one, be able to get the right contractors on board. That then takes another month or so to pitch. But at the same time, all of those drawings, etc., are required because the government's quite strict here from a safety perspective. They want to know that you know what you're building, that it will actually, something will be built that is not going to fall down and is secure and isn't going to electrocute anyone and will have the right AC. It's not going to be too hot. There are the right number of exits, the right number of toilets to suit the right, the number of people that you want to have. There are codes and regulations for all of those things that most people don't even think about. Yeah. You just assume you go in and there you go, it's cooking. So once you do that and you've done the, let's say 3 month and a half, another 3 months or so, another month to tender, and then you start, well, you're already 5-6 months down the road. The fit out is at least 3 months for a sizable venue, if not more. Then you have to train and open because you can't just find 20 people on the side of the road, bring them in, and we open tomorrow.
I think there's a few places in Dubai that might have done that over the years.
Quite a few have. And
I've seen the training.
They'll learn on the job. But that gives you that element of how long it takes. Yeah. So that was the biggest challenge we faced initially with the difficulty of the market. Yeah. And then we just did what we did.
So, and with those market conditions there, like you said, you've unexpectedly come up against Zuma and Nobu, who are massive international brands. They've got much bigger budgets than an independent. They've got a bigger infrastructure. Were there any core values you locked in or any particular mindset? How did you try and differentiate from those, if we want to call them, industry giants?
Well, I think those industry giants and even a number of Japanese brands, which is what Okku is for those that don't know, that have opened since, they generally focus on Latin American, Peruvian, Nikkei, Japanese cuisine, the mix of the two. Okku was conceived as a Californian Japanese. So a bunch of the flavors are slightly different. Presentation is slightly different. And we like to think that we have a number of dishes that even till today, it's interesting, are unique, that people have not replicated. I won't say copied, but they haven't found their way on other people's menus, yet they're some of our best sellers till today. And people come in and a lot of times will say, we want to have sushi, and humans are a creature of habit.
Agreed.
So whether it's with beverage, alcohol or cocktails or food, generally none of us want to look stupid. And so if you go to a restaurant and you don't understand what's on the menu, you might ask 2 or 3 questions from the waiter or the sommelier. You're not going to ask beyond that. because then you're going to think, they're just going to think I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm just here with some money, here to spend. So you won't ask that many questions. You'll be worried to. So we had to sort of, and we've said to people, yes, we've got great fresh sashimi, so the fish that we buy. Is it the best quality? Yes. Same as the other top restaurants. Do we have some great chefs? Yes. Same as the other great restaurants. I'm not going to say the chefs are better or worse than the others. So when people come in, we say, yes, we've got some great, sushi, some great sashimi. Okay. We've got some great rolls, some that are unique from elsewhere, but so do others. If you want that, yes, you're a creature of habit, have that, because that's what you're used to ordering everywhere else. But can we just guide you to please try this dish or that dish or that dish? And so we try to take people on a journey of experiencing new things they haven't before. And we realized quite early on that one of the things we needed to do was when you go out, a lot of people cook great food at home, but you go out for an experience. So Okku was in a big part significantly ahead of its time. And it really was a venue that was talked about the world over. The celebrities that would come, anyone that came to Okku, came to Dubai, would have to get a table at Okku. And it was weeks or months in advance that you would have to book to do that. Essentially what it was this, you create the supper club environment. So you come, you have drinks, you get your table, you have dinner, but it's turning into a party a lot of the time.
I think that's been one of the biggest evolutions over the last 10 years is, I'd argue to some extent, short of Michelin star restaurants, people are no longer interested in purely a dining experience. They either want, like you said, that whole idea of going for dinner and it turns into a party. In the same way, I think nightclubs have lost a lot of popularity. People now want a one venue fits all where you can spend the night and enjoy it.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Irrespective of the, let's say, the level that you're willing to spend, or I don't want to say the caliber because it's different. It's the level that of the experience that you want, and the amount of money that you want to spend. So if you look at it from that perspective, nightclubs, there are still some, and some that are very big, but they're much, much bigger. So there are some that are very small, and then some that are just ginormous. You're talking 2,000 plus capacity.
Exactly.
Some
They've gone
indoor,
to
some outdoor.
big DJs.
Exactly.
It's become a whole different game where it's promoters running it and different people. So we look back to your journey. Okku was the first venue. I'm sure it's always going to be your baby. What's great is over the years, you've certainly proved that yourself and the company aren't a one-trick pony. How many brands is it you've brought to market now with Big on Hospitality?
So before opening, we had a bag of tricks, so to speak, of 10 different brands that we sort of conceived and we had in the drawer, and let's see what we can do with them and where we take them.
Before you ever launched a venue, you had all of them.
We created a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah. So you got a full arsenal ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea was, let's create something so that I can capture you every day of the week.
Yeah.
But initially we didn't want to group it under one umbrella, so essentially you wouldn't know. So we'd have you at a beach club, we'd have you at a Spanish thing, a French thing, an Italian thing, and an American, a Japanese, and we'd capture you most of the week and you wouldn't realize. And so actually brand-wise, Okku was the first, and I'll take being lucky than smart any day of the week. And there's an enormous amount of luck in this sector as well, 100%. In terms of the reputation and the viral marketing of word spreading. You have to go there, you have to go there. So we had a huge amount of that with Okku, and we had to deliver, and we went through a whole raft of difficulties at the beginning, but it was the place that everybody talked about. But then from that, we looked at other things to do. So back in 2010, sort of a year and a half later, we managed to negotiate an open Riva on the Palm, on the shoreline, which became sort of this, very interesting family beach club, super, super busy. Took it, I won't give the official numbers, but from the revenue that we first took it over, having rebranded it and redid it, we took it from, one number with about a 600-700% increase in revenue, and turned it from loss-making into something significantly profitable with the partners we were doing it with. And then there we also created Sophie's, a healthy gastro cafe, something that had an interesting breakfast, that was easy for lunch, healthy things. From that, in 2013, is when we eventually opened Claw. Yeah. Again, we had similar issues with trying to open a small restaurant, trying to get people to pay attention, and that took a year or over a year and a half to get over the line with difficulties. We opened that in Suq al-Bahar next to Dubai Mall. And that was the flagship venue that opened, and it took the market by storm. We were lucky in some ways. People will say there's no bad publicity, and we refused to take bookings there at the beginning. And one day on the radio, there was this conversation going, "Oh my God, it's crazy! We can't even get a booking there. Even for 2 people, it's ridiculous. I go any night of the week, and there's an hour's wait minimum. Can't get better publicity than that.
Nice.
Wasn't paid for, wasn't set up." But that was the reality that we faced. We were really ahead of the time with that. And that Suq al-Bahar location just flew. And we ended up staying there about 9 years.
Nice.
But as the market grew, and as some of the challenges of business were there in terms of, one of the pieces of advice I'd give is be very careful who you do business with.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, and, there was some internal challenges, let's say, nothing to do with the market. And so part of seeing that internal challenge moved us down the franchising route of build ourselves, have the base here, look to open more ourselves, but also look to franchise.
Okay, amazing.
So Claw was, 2013. With that shortly thereafter, we then opened at the Creek, something that, a lot of people got to know extremely well. There was next to the Park Hyatt. There's Boardwalk downstairs with the beautiful restaurant on the water that was refurbished. And then above with the partners there, again, we converted the middle level to become Casa de Tapas, the Spanish, which was previously a French restaurant, super quiet, great food, but not very busy. And then the roof that had never been used, we turned into Cielo, the Sky Lounge, with stunning views. And then those did extremely well. So we've had a number of these different brands that we've created that we then ran ourselves. We created a few for other people as well. And then we've had, sort of affiliated businesses around the industry, whether it's, catering to super high, ultra high net worth homes or yachts or jets or things like that. All not just from our restaurants, but from others.
You're the man that's done it all.
And then we ran, not really. There are some incredible groups these days that, started after us and have done incredibly well. Yeah. But that's the lesson that I would say point I mentioned earlier in terms of who you do business with. Because that we were set back a little bit because of that internal...
People within your own organization.
A little bit of internal strife. Yeah. So we had to reset, came out of some of those ones we talked to you about, kept a couple of the brands running, which was Okku and Claw. Okku we closed back in late 18, only because the lease ran out. Yeah. So the market didn't really understand why. The lease finished. We looked to open a new one, sort of a year and a half later. We were just coming to sign a lease towards the end of 19. Again, friends around the world and other businesses I'm involved in said, be careful, world doesn't seem right. Yeah. 2 months later, COVID hit. So I was lucky not to sign. I was signing something in DIFC. Yeah. So then we had to wait for COVID to finish and then find a space, and then reopen. So by the time we reopened the new Okku, which is a, Marriott on the Palm, stunning property, great partners, we're partners with the, with the owners of the building, the Golden Sands, the Arenco Group, and they're incredible people to work with. And, it took us that long. So we didn't open till 4.5 years after we closed Okku. So in reality, one of the challenges we've had with the new location is that probably 90% of the market that goes out significantly in Dubai today has no idea what the brand is.
Yeah.
So we're sort of having to rebuild from scratch.
Exactly. It's interesting you said that because obviously before researching for this episode, I thought Okku was a brand new concept, brand new restaurant. I've been in Dubai for 5 years now. So it's interesting you say that
yep.
for a lot of people, it is a completely new concept.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known it before.
You would never have known it. No. So during that
the crazy who we had there, one New Year's Eve, AC Milan, Real Madrid, Ronaldo came numerous times, numerous sheikhs came, you name it, celebrities would come to it from the Abu Dhabi Film Festival, drive down, have dinner. We'd find out 3 months later, team hadn't realized. It was incredible, the reaction to that. And that was really the beginning of the Dubai market, I think. And since then, some incredible brands have been created here and are being exported. And now Dubai, with DET, under Hilal and Isam's, great leadership, they got the Michelin Guide here, the awards are here. There are some great now. The market's developed where other markets in the world have gone, where it's not just new brands being developed here. There's an awful lot of focus on chef-centric brands of the personalities and the people. And, the MENA Best Awards were a couple of days ago, very, rightly so. Some of the winners there at the top are some great names that were created locally, from Alfrey Brothers to Moonrise to June's. There's a number of them that are just spectacular. Tressin Studio, is a 2-star
restaurant.
Michelin. It's fantastic food, and 20 years ago that sort of market wasn't here. The customer probably wasn't here either. So it's getting the right product at the right time for the customer base. And Dubai now really is genuinely, in my opinion, one of the top food and beverage markets in the world.
100%. I mean, if you look at it, like you said, it's got these big international, there's not a massive international brand that hasn't come. Even Sexy Fish arriving, different people, they're late to party. And then all this fantastic homegrown restaurants as well. Where do you think the food and beverage market in Dubai goes from here? Like, just how can it get bigger still?
I think it will continue to increase. But there is a little bit of a reality check. And I don't always say things that are necessarily politically correct, but a lot of people are keen to get into this market. But at the end of the day, it's business. It shouldn't be looked at as an ego business. Restaurants are an extremely hard sector to be in. And like any other business, should really be, it doesn't matter what sector you look at, 3, 4, 5 revenue drivers, 3, 4, 5 cost drivers. If you don't know what those are in the sector you're going into, you're in big trouble. If you figure those out, and my background's in FC, I was at Pricewaterhouse for years in the UK, in multiple sort of specialists there. If you have to know what drives a business to make it tick, on the upside and the downside being the costs. And the reality is every single month, whether we like it or not, you can't really own property here for restaurants. It's not like, other parts of the world. It's very hard to do that because the restaurateur is unlikely to own a building. Okay, and you're not really going to have a standalone somewhere that can serve, licensed beverages either. So for most of the foreigners that open a place here, every month for sure, guaranteed, the staff need to be paid, the clock resets, so does the rent. And you need to see how fast during the month you can get to the point that you break even to cover all those fixed costs. So whether you have a customer or not, these costs happen. Right? You will be paying the staff salaries that you owe them. You will be having rent that you need to pay. You will be having, other fixed expenses that are there for the electricity, et cetera, whether you have a bumper month or not. So the question is, how quickly can you cover those? Then everything beyond that becomes significantly profitable. Once you cover the fixed costs, you start to make money significantly. Many restaurants don't get near that point. They never even get there.
So there's a lot of restaurants in Dubai running at a loss.
They do, and what you tend to see is people that essentially, if you build a house on a shaky foundation, it really won't stay up for too long. The shaky foundation in the food and beverage sector is if you commit to a rent that is too high. The reality is your rent should really be somewhere around 10 to 12% of your revenue. But some of the rents that people are agreeing to are criminal. But you can't, a lot of people here will say, but the landlord, and they'll blame the landlord. But at the end of the day, nobody forced you to sign that lease, right? And so there are numerous projects, and I won't name them, where they said, people, the big groups have said, well, people have come to us in the summer and said, oh my God, I can't afford to pay the rent. But you signed the lease knowing there's going to be 5 months of summer. It didn't suddenly happen, right? It didn't suddenly summer happen. Oh my God, the weather's not going to be good. You knew it's coming, right? But then they're asking for help. So yes, could you say, there's higher demand, there's higher supply, in terms of pricing, the supply side is expensive. Listen, if I owned the buildings, I'd want to charge more. You're not going to own a building and say, it's okay, I'll give it to you. Sorry, you're my friend. And I'll step away from the other 10 great brands that are coming, great operators. They've all got a lot of money and they're willing to pay double what you're going to pay. Why would you do that? That's not good business. So there's fault on both sides, but there's some element of greed of charging a lot And then what's happened is a lot of people have thought it's an easy sector to get into. So they get convinced by a consultant, throw a ton of money in. And this sector, it's not one of those where you can try, and if it doesn't work, that's okay. All of the money goes in up front.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't work, it's finished.
Yeah, that's the problem. There's so many high fixed costs in there. One thing that really interests me with the Dubai, if you want to call it hospitality, nightlife, restaurant scene at the minute, is just how long the lifespan of concepts can be. Like you said, you had Okku and then you reopened. Because I do feel that there's something fresh to the market all the time. Within the group, do you feel that need to constantly be reinventing, cycle brands in and out?
We haven't. So some groups do, some don't.
Yeah.
Right? So Nobu's been around for a long time, so has Zuma. There are a number of brands that have really stood the test of time. Yeah. Okku's one of those. And we've recently actually created, we had, a private room hidden away at the back of the new Okku. Yeah. Excuse me. And we thought, what do we do with it? Do we do what a lot of others are doing and create a speakeasy? Yeah. And then we thought, no, Okku is a speakeasy. In reality, it turns more fun later. Do we go down the high-end omikaze? And there are two great starred ones, one Hoseki at Bulgari and the other one Takahisa now at Anantara, on Blue Water. And we thought, but that, how are we going to stand out and be any different? We can create it to the same level. I wasn't worried about that, And we thought, no, let's do something different. So we went down the teppanyaki route. Now, most people know teppanyaki as, the egg and they throw it at you, catch it in your mouth, or he throws the egg into his hat, or, but you end up...
All-inclusive Mexican vibe.
Yeah, for the most part, food doesn't taste great. It's more of a show. It's the brown sauce that goes on everything, and you finish your food, and then this massive pile of rice comes to you. And then you leave, and you stink. Yeah. And you've got to put your clothes in the dry clean. So we thought, let's do something different. So I challenged the team, and I said, right, we're going to do a teppanyaki, but we're doing it differently. So what we've created is this 10-course experiential menu. We've given it a totally different brand. It's hidden behind a secret door at the back of Okku. It's called Musu, M-U-S-O-U. Yeah. It's got its own life. Musu means peerless or unmatched. I'd like to say that we are confident rather than arrogant, that it is great in what we've put out. But it's a teppanyaki concept, 3 chefs, not one, cooking on 2 grills in front of only 10 people. And it's sort of served omikaze style in terms of it's just spectacular how it's presented. And it's just a great, different experience. And genuinely, we've only been open now about 4 weeks. And a lot of people that have come in are saying, we really find it hard to find anything in Dubai that's new and that's novel and unique and hasn't been done before, and this is. So we've gone down this route with this particular concept. From our normal concepts, to go back to your question, Okku stays as it is. We've got versions of it, a mid-range and other things we're doing, including an Okku beach at some time.
Amazing.
Same with Claw. We've expanded that significantly. We've got more opening. And again, Claw as a beach club could easily be done. It'd be a lot of fun on the beach, mid-range. There are some interesting discussions. Yeah. Watch this space for some of that. But others have felt they need to change. Now, some of the locations you'll see in Dubai that have changed, it's not because they've wanted to change. Concepts haven't worked. Yeah. The rents have been too high. The business hasn't worked. So it's either the same owners have changed the brand to something else. Yeah. I'm not going to name names to name and shame. I don't think that's fair in this sector. I know how hard this business is. Our team works extremely hard. I know other teams do as well. Investors sometimes get hoodwinked into putting a lot of money, trusting that something will do great, thinking it's an easy business, and it's not. So I won't name those, but they will then change. And if they're not able to change themselves, then a location will sell at a premium. Somebody else comes in. And you see this, unfortunately, all too often. Somebody comes in, thinks it's too easy, agrees to a higher rent, changes the concept, signs a 3, 5, 7-year lease, and then realizes 6 months down the road, oh my God, what have I done? Yeah. And then they're into this cycle of it not working again. But that doesn't mean, as a customer, it's great for us, because there's always new stuff opening, right? There's always new things that we can go to. So as a customer, we're lucky.
And that's a great thing about Dubai is the variety is just massive.
You may know a website in the UK, if when all the sort of .com boom was happening, It used to be called lastminute.com.
Yep.
Right. So the two founders set it up. It was amazing for the customer.
Yeah.
An absolute rubbish business. In reality, didn't last.
No.
Couldn't last. But for us, wow, we got great things at great pricing. So here it's not necessarily just about great pricing in the sort of mid or the lower end, because the super high end, there's incredible stuff opening all the time. And literally, I think it challenges anything anywhere in the world. Yeah. And that started here with hotels. So, you know, a 3 or a 4-star hotel here will tend to challenge a 5-star in Europe. Yeah. You know, a suite in Europe is smaller than a normal room in most hotels here, most high-end hotels. So that same thing has happened in hospitality, where just the simple offerings that are here are incredible. They're at another level. And this has become one of those go-to markets in the world. So where, you know, the rich and famous, so to speak, and it's part of that notoriety, it's become part of the circuit. And whenever the rest of the world coughs or sneezes, Dubai benefits. Yeah. You know, I think a mistake with the government in the UK with the tax now, thousands of millionaires and others will move here, right? And more will happen. COVID was a great example in terms of how it was handled, and more people came here. So people will come, open, you know, take homes, open offices, bring people, set up a base, spend 3, 6, 9 months of the year here, and then the summer disappear at the very high end. And that all continues to support massively the real estate sector. It's an exponential effect, an impact, as more and more people come. Yeah. You know, but the growth is still significant. You're asking that question earlier. Today we're some 3.5 million people here. I think the government objective is to reach 10 million in the next 15 years, and people looking, oh my God, really? And that's just here. That's not looking at Abu Dhabi or Ras Al Khaimah and what's going on there. So there is an enormous growth that will happen. And with that, you're going to see masses of new restaurants and bars and clubs and, you know, homemade sort of smaller businesses that open and then grow and then expand from here. So
it'll be absolutely fantastic to see during that period. And you've teed me up very nicely there, because the last 20 years has been unbelievable for Big on Hospitality. You've achieved fantastic success over numerous brands. I think one of the great things I love about Claw BBQ is, like you say, so many people are targeting that top premium sector, but you've delivered a high quality product that's fun, that's a great night out at a good price, which is such a niche in the market. The 20 years to date have been unbelievable. You said there, over the next 15 years, growth in Dubai. What's the plan for your brands during that time? Where do you see the business going?
Well, I think what we try to do with the brands is make it authentic, to your point. So, you know, Claw delivers what it says on the tin, which is it's casual, it's great quality, you feel at home, you come, the staff are super friendly, people have had a bad day, they come there to feel better. And we get so many regulars coming, whichever of the branches. You know, the flagship is in JBR, which is massive, some 470 seats. The one at Hilton on the Palm is also incredible. That focuses significantly on the residents of the Palm, 390 something seats. Again, we're adding some now, going to increase to almost 450 there. And they're busy all the time. The average spend is, you know, somewhere between 250 dirham, all in. You know, food and beverage, even if it's the, you know, the licensed beverage. So we're trying to be achievable for people. And it's exactly your point to that. You don't want to go out necessarily and spend crazy money all the time, but it's not for everyone. It is a casual. You'll see people there in suits. You'll see people there in shorts, you know, slippers, baseball cap. And we joke and we say, as long as you're legally accepted by the government to be outside and what you're wearing, you're welcome inside. Yeah. So, you know, you can't come in without a shirt. But we've had people try. So that the expansion for all of these brands is UAE centric now. And then and we have another, this may shock you to some degree, but we've got 7 other brands that we've created. There's an English gastropub, mid-range French. So we're really focusing on the mid-range. Yeah. Okay, so mid-range French, mid-range Italian, Spanish, a gastropub, as I said, an Arabic, normal, a fish one that's more sort of nighty with food. So a whole concoction, a mix of different things that will create all mid-range that will open in the UAE first and then expand those out. So we've got expansion plans, discussions that we're having, for example, for Okku as an example, in Azerbaijan, in Mumbai, in Goa, We are looking at Monaco. We've turned down 3 locations and partners in London already. I'd rather not go there at this point. I would prefer to be a big fish in a smaller pond. Mumbai is not necessarily a small pond, but how many incredible restaurants are there? So, it is a great city. There's a great customer base, but we're looking at expanding essentially around this region into Asia. Most people, I think, have this sort of idea in their mind that the expansion should go west. Yeah. I think a lot of people haven't really woken up to the fact that the biggest part of the world is east, not west. As amazing as America is, and don't get me wrong, for Claw, it would be spectacular. Yeah. So we could open probably 1 or 2 Claws in every single city, and the brand would become worth crazy money.
Like the modern day Hooters, wouldn't it? That kind of style.
But go east. 1.2 billion people in India. It's 1.3 billion in China. Yeah. The smallest city, the smallest village in China is 12 million people. Yeah. Right, so, they're opening coffee shops and hotels at 1 and 2 and 3 a day. So when you look at it from that perspective, the language barrier is a big issue because we're all more comfortable looking west into Europe and the US, where it's predominantly English-based. But if you look east, it's huge opportunity. So whilst we are looking at some locations west, which are important for brand recognition, east is really where we're looking to go. Yeah. And that's, I think, slightly different from most groups because the traditional thinking is go west. Mm. And I think there'll be a number of announcements. We're also looking at doing some very interesting new things in Dubai. And again, things that haven't been done. You're looking at me going, and I can see in your eyes going, how? What hasn't been done here? Everything's been done. You'll see some interesting announcements in the next couple of months of some things that we're going to open that just simply have not been done and that really will be, a game changer locally and will attract global attention. Because for me, I don't have an Emirati passport. I hold dual nationality from other countries, British and Jordanian. But this is home. I don't see myself and the family going anywhere else. It's home for us. And I'll do whatever I can to help push the brand Dubai all over the world and bring more and more people here. This is probably where I'll retire and die ultimately. So,
well, I think we can't get any bigger point than that to finish on today, can we? For everyone watching, as obviously the owner of a branding agency, and when you go into the venues, I just think the attention to detail from the decor to the food to the treatment of the staff in your venues is really second to none. If you haven't been to Okku, Claw BBQ, or any of the other venues before, I do highly, highly recommend them. Where would your favourite restaurant in the group be?
Oh, that's not fair. That's like asking who's your favourite child? Yeah. Look, they all hold a close part to my heart. Some people will tell you never sell. Yeah. I would if the right price was there, and that shocks some people. Yeah. It's a business ultimately. But no, I love them both. The 2 that we're running right now, obviously, and then we have Muzu. So it's Okku, Claw BBQ, and Muzu. And we've got more in the pipeline that we're going to launch. They all hold a special place. Yeah. And as you said, the attention to detail, irrespective of price point. So you come to Claw and just, all of the small dishes that you get, the appetizers, they will have the two carrots and the 2 celery. Yeah. It's just standard. But we are very, very consistent in what you get. And that's hugely important. Just because you're not paying a big price doesn't mean you shouldn't get great quality. No. But we do the same at Okku. We try and blow people away there with the sort of flavor journey, and then the entertainment that we do. And, everyone comes in and anyone that, once they come in, they go, oh my God, how have I not come here? And, we're practical about it. Okku has a reputation. Is it as busy as I'd like it to be? Not yet. But we wanted to focus more on the hospitality aspect of great food, great service, great drinks, get all of that right as we now take the next step, with our partners to now make it a lot busier. Because what we didn't want to do was create this, and you have a few of these in Dubai, just a place that people come to party and everything is taken for granted. They don't really care so much about the quality of the food and drink. As you said, it's more important, the atmosphere, although there are some great just food places. But they'll never do the revenue of the great party places. So if you start down that route and don't have something solid as a foundation, when the next shinier kid on the block or the next shinier venue, etc., shinier car, whatever pops up, a big part of the group goes there. And you'll lose that customer base. And if you don't have a foundation to fall back on of the great quality of everything, you have no business left. Right. So we've sort of approached it very carefully with the partner of building that first, making sure that is absolutely top notch. And then now we're pushing the other side, which is, again, a different approach to the market. We haven't tried to be a Me Too because the market has developed so much. We had to reintroduce and come back into the market as a new brand. Yeah. And so that's what you'll see more of this year as the reputation spreads. Unbelievable.
Well, I think that's a fantastic lesson for us today, which so many businesses can take note of, which is building that house on a solid foundation is such an important part of success. Ramzy, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been super interesting to actually see that journey and evolution of a homegrown brand and a restaurant chain in Dubai. I really do appreciate you coming in. For everyone watching, check them out on social media. Claw BBQ, Okku, numerous other brands as well. Get yourselves down there. You'll have a fantastic night. Over the next coming weeks, we've got some fantastic guests joining us from a variety of industries. So please do remember to subscribe and keep following. Until then, keep raising the bar.